Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by former MFC Light Heavyweight champion Victor Valimaki. Victor, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Victor, you got a fight coming up October 3rd at MFC 41. How's training been going for the fight?
Oh, really good. I feel sharper than I have in a long time. I know everyone always says that going in. They feel the best they've ever felt, but this time I think it's actually true. Everything just seems to come together for this one.
Mm-hmm. Where are you training at these days?
I jump around a little bit. The main place for MMA is a place called Complete Martial Arts here in Edmonton. Got a few guys you might know, like Sheldon Westcott, Ryan Ford comes out. Mitch Clark, also with UFC. We got a pretty good group of guys there. I jump around. I wrestle with the university here on and off. I go to a great boxing gym where we have a world champion out of. So, I like to get the full package. So you got to kind of jump around and train with the best guys.
Coming up on October 3rd, you're going to be taking on Jeremy Ostheim. I hope that's how you say his name. Jeremy Ostheim, he's going to be your opponent. How much film have you seen on him, and how much do you know about your opponent?
Skilled guy. I think I've seen everything he's got. For the maybe, I might have missed an amateur fight or something in there, but skilled guy, tall, really rangy guy, but nothing I haven't dealt with before. He's one of these big up and comer guys, and he wants to use me as that stepping stone, and sad to say for him, it's not going to work out for him.
Mm-hmm. This is a very interesting matchup because you guys are both in different stages of your careers. You're a veteran guy in this sport, and you're trying to ward off a hungry up-and-coming guy, and he's a up-and-coming guy who's trying to use you as a stepping stone to make a name for himself in this sport. So I'm just curious, with your experience and all the guys that you've fought in the past and all the things that you've done up until this point in this sport, and you look at his record and he doesn't have that many fights, do you think that going into this fight he's bitten off more than he can chew?
I definitely think so. He's very confident coming in that he can beat me, but it's lots of guys are, and like I said, he's skilled, but he's jumping in the deep end right now. I'm light years ahead of where I was when, like even a few years ago. Someone who just takes a little twist in life to smarten you up and get you to put it all together. But if he's looking at old footage of mine or anything like that, he's in for a rude awakening. And I'm not the guys he's been fighting, and it's going to really show on October 3rd.
Mm-hmm. Last time out at MFC 40, that was your return to the organization. You fought against Bill Wilder. That was in May. You fought against him. You defeated him by first-round submission via rear naked choke. How pleased were you with your performance in the fight?
I was ecstatic. There was a lot of stuff going on outside the ring that made that one, all the more, made it more exciting for me. And I actually got out of the hospital. I had a tumor removed in my throat before that fight, and I was supposed to fight the MFC previous to that, and ended up in the hospital with a tumor, and so I had a pretty big climb back into the cage from some rebounding from that, and to come back and win and win in front of my hometown and everything was just great for me. It was one of those life-defining moments, I think, and coming back with MFC where I got my MMA start was even that much sweeter. So now I just got to carry that through. I mean, in that fight you could see chunks of rust falling off me, I think, in the ring. So I got that out of the way. So now it's time to shine.
Mm-hmm. In the Wilder fight at MFC 40, you silenced some of your critics, but there's still a lot of critics out there. There's still a lot of haters. There's still a lot of doubters. There's still a lot of people out there who aren't 100% sold on you going forward. There's still people who have their doubts about you at this stage in your career. So, in terms of pressure, where do you feel more pressure? Do you feel more pressure to prove the doubters and the people who don't believe in you? Do you feel more pressure to prove them wrong? Or do you feel more pressure to prove guys like Mark Pavlich and some of the other people who really believe in you? Do you feel more pressure to prove the doubters wrong? Or do you feel more pressure to prove the people who support you right?
I'd say the latter. I mean, I've had a lot of people jump ship, jump off the wagon, and I don't blame him. I had a bad run for a while, and it's hard to hang on when you see someone slipping like that. So, but everything's going really well, and for those people who did stick with me, and a guy like Mark Pavlich who gave me that shot still, had some faith that I could, come back with it. I'm much more on that side of it with I want to do it for the people who've always been there for me, who, stayed through the tough times. And, I think there's going to be a big upswing here. And I want to do it for those people who stuck with me. So, don't get me wrong. I love proving those haters wrong, though, too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, what exactly happened to you? You fell off for a little while there. What's the story? Because maybe there's a lot of people out there who aren't familiar with your story or didn't know that there was maybe a rough time. There's a lot of guys who suffer losses and then take layoffs and stuff like that, but, it might not be as deep of an issue as yours was. So what exactly happened to you during the time that you say you fell off?
There's a few things. I mean, some of it I don't want to get into all that much,
okay.
But there was a few things. I mean, I had, like on the fighting end of it, I had, I had some kind of self-caused health issues. Like I did too big of water cuts for a long time, so I ended up doing some damage to my liver and kidneys, actually. So those are the reasons I can't do big weight cuts anymore. So I'm a lot smarter about it, and I diet down. So I had a couple of fights where I had kidney failure and wasn't allowed to fight. Showed up to the venue, and the doctor stopped letting me fight. And then just some problems outside. I prefer not to get too much into it. But then, okay. I was sick a lot too, and I didn't really know what was going on. I couldn't really pinpoint it. I went in for all these medicals and couldn't pinpoint it. And, finally I went in, they found a tumor in my throat, and, that was, I got that removed. I don't know if it was all cause and effect, but, I got that removed, and I feel like $1 million now. I don't know if it's that mental side of it where, you kind of overcome that stuff and it gives you that mental push to go through, or if there's the physical side of it. But I had a lot of stuff. I had a few fights fall through where other opponents got injured or other events got canceled, or there was the ones when I had the issues. So, I mean, there was a combination of things, and I know it's a sport and you should be ready 100% of the time, but unfortunately it doesn't always happen that way. So, I just hope to stay healthy now and keep going with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the databases say your record is 18 wins and 8 losses, but it seems like you've had a ton of fights canceled, because I can remember 3 fights out the top of my head, and I'm sure if I looked it up, I could find more fights, but you were supposed to have a fight against Razak Al Hassan, you were supposed to have a fight against Steve Bosse, you were supposed to have a fight against Marcus Hicks. There's a bunch of fights that were canceled that you were supposed to have. 18 wins, 8 losses is your official record, but how many more fights should you have on your record if everything goes as planned?
I should have a ton of them. And that's going back to other opponents getting injured as well. I mean, right. The Razak fight was one of the fights that I had kidney issues, so I ended up in the hospital. Steve Bosse injured his elbow. He dropped out. Marcus Hicks dropped out. So it was a combination of other people dropping out and myself. So, if I had every fight that I should have had, I'd have twice the record right now, I think. And, that's where I do give Mark Pavlich props, though, too, is as a promoter, he does a really good job of, if someone falls through, he will always find that replacement fighter. And I can't say the same for a lot of organizations. I've been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of fights where one of my opponent gets injured and they can't find your replacement, or they say they can't find your replacement. So, where they probably should have been able to. So Mark Pavlich at least does a great job with, always finding a replacement. So if someone falls through, you're going to still have that fight. And if that was the case, I'd have a ton more fights.
Mm-hmm. Is the Marcus Hicks fight, is that a fight that still interests you?
Not at all. Not at all. Marcus Hicks is one of those fighters now that I'm trying to set, like, some of my training partners, those up-and-comer guys, up against him. I just don't see any upside in it. Marcus can't hang with me. He's actually back there at 3 fights with me now. So it's not really a fight that I'm going to take, because he's going to drop out again anyways. And skill wise, I want to be fighting guys, elite fighters, and I don't know how much longer I feel great, but who knows how much longer I have in my career. So I want to really fight those top guys and really test myself against top elite fighters. So, and I don't really think he fits the bill.
Mm-hmm. What exactly happened back in 2007? You were supposed to fight him at MFC 12. He backed out of the fight. I think it was the day of or the day before. I can't remember the exact story. I'll let you tell the story. But what exactly happened that day?
Oh, this is a funny one. He was actually at the venue, warming up. I had a couple of training partners, and the commission saw him do this, and this is one of the reasons I'll never fight him, because he was playing around with one of his training partners in the ring. He had Mount on his training partner, warming up, and he repeatedly punched the floor next to his training partner's head from Mount, and broke his hand in his warm-up for the fight. Mm-hmm. And so he walks right up to the boxing commission and goes, "Hey, I broke my hand." And of course, you break your hand and you walk up to commission, but they're not going to let you fight. So he obviously the fight got canceled, and an hour before we were supposed to fight. So not exactly the best way to drop out of a fight.
Mm-hmm. Is that where the bad blood stems from, or was there something going on even before that?
There's not too much bad blood with it. I mean, he's a mouthpiece, and I don't like it. He talks himself into fights that he shouldn't have, and anytime he fights someone who's half decent, he gets his ass kicked. So, he's just too much of a mouthpiece. And then he'll go beat someone with a losing record, and then he thinks he's ready to fight Anderson Silva next. So, I don't know. I don't really hold any bad blood, but I just don't have time for guys with zero respect for other fighters like that.
Oh, I see. Well, anyways, moving on. I was just curious about that because, that was a fight that was supposed to happen, 7 years ago, so I was just curious about that one. Now, you fought with MFC a long time ago in the beginning, and then you went to different promotions, and now you're back with MFC. I'm just curious, could you compare the MFC that you first fought for to the MFC now? Because it's went through a lot of changes. It's a lot bigger of a show now than it was back when you were their champion. So I'm just curious, what's the difference between the organization you fought for in the early part of your career to the organization you're currently fighting for?
Well, I think the production value, the coverage, like the news coverage, the sponsors, all that is so much bigger now. I mean, back when I was fighting MFC, the sport was still relatively young, and people weren't jumping on the ship yet. People weren't getting behind on the sponsors, and it was still somewhat shunned. So they weren't getting that big TV publicity, and sponsors were hesitant to jump on. And now it's obviously with UFC and Ultimate Fighter and all that, and the sport's so much bigger. So people love fighting now, and it really translates into more publicity for the fighters, which in the end that's what it's all about. And the more money sponsors like to get on it, and we're on live TV now, so it's a lot of fun. It's a good time to be a fighter, and especially these up and comers who are starting at this level with all this coverage and stuff now. It's really exciting, and I'm really glad to be a part of the MSC family again.
Mm-hmm. Victor, I'm just curious, how did you get your nickname, The Matrix?
I have a lot of hate relationship with the Matrix. It was actually Mark Pavlich gave it to me back years ago. He was one of my trainers, and his son Dave Pavlich was just a kid back then, and there was these other kids that were watching us train, watching me and Jason McDonald train, and I had Jason on the ground, and I did this cartwheel, pretty much a backflip over Jason, and it was pretty aerobatic move that I did. Most 205ers aren't quite as athletic as me, and so I did basically a backflip to pass Jason McDonald's guard, and these kids were watching, and they were like, "Holy cow, you look like you're in the Matrix!" And then as soon as they heard that, Mark grabbed that name and just ran with it. So it's a lot of people still know me by that name, so I don't mind it too much, but yeah, it's just one of those ones that stick with you.
Well, you're doing a lot better now, and so I guess the Matrix is reloaded, huh?
yeah, definitely.
Right. Now, it's been well documented that you had some hard times. We touched on it a little bit earlier. What was the worst streak? Was it that streak that you had in 2010, or was it earlier in your career when you fought in the UFC, lost to Alessio Sakara, David Heath, and then you lost your belt to Roger Hollett? What was the worst run? Was it the one in 2010 or the one in 2007?
Without a doubt, the 2010. The earlier one, I was fighting better men than me at the time, and it was, I wasn't quite at that level that I should have been. So that was more of a skill thing, and that's, I look back and it's one of those things. Just get better and build from that. But 2010 was a different story. That was my own doing. I should never have fought for 3 or 4 fights of those, and I'm lucky I didn't get more hurt going in. I wasn't training. I was drinking a lot, and I was, had all these outside issues really kind of affecting my life. And, I was coming out of shape training, a handful of times for a high-level fighter. And, as I'm sure you know, it's like, unless you're dedicated to something, especially fighting, you shouldn't be doing it. And, I just kind of proved that theory right. And, it was a hard time, and basically I was taking beatings inside and outside of the ring in a lot of ways. And, it's one of those things like live and learn, though. I say like a rock bottom, and now you know what you got to do not to do that, and build on top of those losses. So I'm, I've had a lot of life experience, so there's not much, someone in the ring now is going to show me that I haven't seen before. So it's everything's lined up, full steam ahead.
Mm-hmm. During that time, were you just going off of your talent? Because obviously everyone who's ever seen you fight knows that you're one of the most talented guys in this sport, and you can be one of the best guys in the world if you have everything going for you. So during that time, were you just basically going off talent? Like, what was your training like during those times?
I don't even remember that. That time was really just almost a haze for me. Like, to be totally honest, it's, I was drinking all the time and partying and things I shouldn't do as an athlete, and it really showed in the ring. And like I said, there was a few fights I never should have fought. I'm lucky things didn't go a lot worse, and I just basically went on cruise control. I do think I have a lot of talent, and I was going in there just turning the brain off and going on sheer talent. But the problem is, when you're abusing your body outside the ring, you don't have a lot of go inside the ring. So it definitely caught up to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm just curious, over the whole course of your career, from start up until now, how much of your potential have you shown? How much higher is your ceiling than what you've shown so far?
I think, I honestly believe I have a lot of room to move still. Talk to my training partners now, and they see a different person. It's nothing. It's night and day to what it was before, and I think it's just that mental edge, and it sounds dumb, but you have to, laying in a hospital bed, thinking about I might not ever be able to fight again, and almost dying. It kind of snaps some sense in your head of going, my biggest fear is being 70 years old, looking back, thinking I could have done it, and I wasted my career away. So I'm taking that into fighting now, and I'm pushing it a lot farther than I used to. I do more mental training. I do all those weaknesses in my game. I'm trying to really tie together, and I really think like that. That's why I want to fight elite fighters now. I want to fight, the cream of the crop of fighters, and just to test myself and see how far I can take it, and how much better I can get. Because I really look at it, there's a lot of guys in UFC I think I could hang with, and more than hang with. So I just got to prove it now. And like you touched base at the beginning, I got to build faith up in people again, and that's what I plan on doing.
Mm-hmm. You're only 32, but you've been fighting for a very long time. I think when people look at your record and see that you started in 2001, they think that you would be a lot older than you are, but you're only 32. So I'm just curious, how much longer do you want to continue to fight?
Well, I think I'm going to listen to my body. I haven't really set a limit on it, but as long as my body allows me to perform at the level I think it is, and I feel better now than I did when I was 25, and that's because I'm doing I'm doing everything right now, and I don't I diet properly. I don't do these 35-pound water cuts, and hurt my kidneys, and I don't drink anymore, and I don't do all this stuff that was wasting my talent. And now that I have all those demons, if you will, kind of put aside, it's I feel I got a long career left. I don't know if I want to go to the extent like a Randy Couture would, but I think I got like a long time left, and I'm getting better right now with age. So we'll see. As long as I don't get any, barring any large injuries, I think I got a long time left.
Mm-hmm. It seems like 99% of your problems in the past were outside the ring stuff. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. 100% of my problems were outside the ring. Any fight that I was ever dedicated and took care of myself outside the ring, it really showed in the ring. And I've never lost a fight that I was that I prepared properly for. So now that I'm preparing properly for my fights, I think it's going to be trouble for a lot of 205ers.
Mm-hmm. Is this all you do for a living? All you do is fight, or do you work a second job?
I work, but I'm really fortunate that the jobs I have work hand in hand with fighting. They work around my training career. Like I work with a DNA company that we do DNA testing for athletes, so we can test, for your diet, like how you should diet, how you should train based on your genetics, and obviously that's been a huge part of helping myself turn around, but also helping other fighters and other athletes turn around. So I do that, and I also work for a supplement company, Perfect Nutrition, which is your protein powders and all that. So I'm the Alberta territory rep for them. So I'm right hand in hand with all this other stuff that goes around with the fighting career. So it works out pretty well.
I see. Now I'm just curious, since you've been in this game a very long time, what got you into MMA, and is that still the same reason that keeps you in MMA?
Well, I got in because I loved MMA coming up. Like when I first started thinking about getting into it, it was the early UFCs. Dan Severn was still fighting, and so this is a long time ago. And it's obviously the sport's changed a lot since then. And but I got in never. I was interested in it, but never thought it was actually would happen. Like there was. Outside the UFC, there was no MMA going on almost anywhere, and so I started jiu-jitsu. I started wrestling in high school, and I did pretty well at it. I started going to local grappling tournaments, and I was cleaning up. I was winning all these tournaments, and it was actually Mark Pavlich kind of spotted me at one of these things, and that was right about the time he started MFC 1. And so he asked if I wanted to fight. I said, sure. At the time I couldn't punch myself out of a wet paper bag, but I could wrestle and I could do jiu-jitsu. So I started, and it turns out I wasn't too bad at it, and I've just been doing it ever since. And it's one of those things one of those passions that never goes away. And there's been ups and downs with it, but it's always been there. And I just can't see myself not being a fighter.
Mm-hmm. What is the perfect storybook ending for your career now that things are going good for you? Is it to, win some more fights and recapture the MFC Light Heavyweight belt? Is it maybe capture that belt and then make another run in the UFC? You were there early in your career, things didn't go well. Is it, maybe getting another opportunity there? What would be the storybook ending for your career?
Well, I think first things first is getting that MFC belt back, and that's one of those ones that it never ended. It didn't end on a very good note when we left. So, I definitely want that belt back. And in UFC, I mean, that's I am very happy with MFC, and I'm not looking to jump ship or go anywhere. But if it happens, it happens. Of course, that UFC would be great. I mean. I really hope that UFC plans on coming to Edmonton. I've heard kind of rumblings that they are coming here, possibly 2015. My sort of ending would be coming in and fighting for UFC in Edmonton, in front of my hometown and taking a win there. And obviously I don't want that to be the end, but I mean, I think I could, in good conscience, retire after winning a UFC fight in my hometown, especially since I was the first person from Edmonton to go to UFC. So, but then again, I want to travel as well. So, I mean, if other fight events take me, around the world, then so be it. I'd love to fight in Japan, and I'm just kind of going where the wind blows me right now. Mm-hmm.
Victor, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
To all the fans that have still been with me, thanks for staying with me. I mean, nobody likes a wagon jumper, but there's been those solid people that have been there with me through all of it, and I really need to thank them. Thanks to Mark Pavlich for bringing me back into the fold when, I wasn't coming off the highlight of my career. So having that faith in me to come back. And for sponsors, big one I have to thank is also a friend of mine, Ben from X Construction here in Edmonton. He's been a huge help and a huge supporter in helping me train more full time than I was before. And he's one of those fans/friends that have stayed with me through it. So I need to thank all those people, and thanks for the interview.
Definitely. Victor, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it, and best of luck coming up at MFC 41.
Perfect. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.